Namaste. Let me adjust that a little bit. Aloha, my name is Janapati Das. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita as it is class. Please accept my respects, everyone. I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagat Guru Siddhaswara Pananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and offer this class to him and to his lotus feet. I also offer my most humble obeisances unto my spiritual grandfather, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are continuing reading through chapter, where are we? Chapter 12, right? Devotional service, yeah. Almost done. More than halfway done through the Bhagavad Gita. It's wonderful. We are going to chant some, so please join along with me. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Dharmam Sanadine Swarupai Radha Krishna Krishnayate Namo Siddha Swarupananda Dharmam Sanadine Haribo. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gorakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasthayate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So welcome back. Those of you who are in Hawaii, I hope you were okay during that pretty intense storm we had. Lots of rain, like 10 to 15 inches or something. Clean my glasses. These glasses are not too strong, but I gotta make sure they're clear. Maybe I can get another pair here. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Brand new glasses, yeah. Once your reading goes, then it's like your eyesight gets worse as you age. You always gotta have glasses around. It's annoying. Unless, of course, you wear glasses already. Yeah, that's better. Much better. Alright. So, we had finished off where Krishna was beginning to answer the question that Arjuna had put to Krishna about whether devotion to him or worship of the impersonal Brahman was higher. And he, of course, stated that love and devotion and service is better. And he was stating about fixing the mind upon Krishna and engaging all intelligence in me, you would live in me without doubt. So, Krishna consciousness. This is why this is titled Devotional Service, because devotional service is better than worship of the impersonal Brahman, or trying to understand the impersonal Brahman. Text 9. Ata chitam samadatum na shaknoshi mai stilam abhyasya yogena tato mamichaptum dayana jaya. Ata, if therefore, chitam, mind, samadatam, fixing. Interesting, that word samad, which comes also in samadhi, which is immersion. Na, not, shaknoshi, able, mai, upon me, stilam, fixed, abhyasya, practice, yogena, by devotional service, tata, therefore, mam, me, icha, desire, aptum, to get, dhananjaya, O Arjuna. Translation, text 9. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth. I think that's what dhananjaya means, winner of wealth, because Arjuna was winning. He won so many battles, and he won so many different kinds of, would be considered wealth, different kinds of weapons and abilities and whatnot. If you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, you will develop a desire to attain to me. So now Krishna begins to show the gray area, the different levels of surrender. That it's not like black or white, you surrender to God or you go to hell. It's like there are different degrees of surrender and different kinds of service that people can do. It's a very long spectrum. So Krishna is very merciful. He gives us just what we need, what we want to surrender to. He's not forcing. He doesn't force, in many religions, there's a basis of fear that if you tell them about God, that they're not going to believe you, or they're not going to follow your church or mosque or whatever. And so they feel like the fanatical people, like, these Islamists who are like, it's like how Islam was spread primarily, but through the sword, forcing people to eat meat in India, or, just threatening to kill them and if you don't be surrendered to Islam. It wasn't like they were trying to teach the message of Muhammad to people. They just forced them to do that. And so so Krishna doesn't force us. he even tells Arjuna, here's the reality of things. Consider it upon it. Consider it, and deliberate upon it. Take this knowledge and consider it. Because when you listen for the spiritual master, you should consider. You should try to apply. You should, when you're looking for the absolute truth, then there is a humility of listening, considering things. It's not just like challenging things all the time. It's, considering it. No, that doesn't quite work. What he's saying is not consistent with the scriptures. It's not sitting well in my heart. So, but here he tells, okay, if and many people come to the process of chanting and whatnot with so many desires and very little surrender, but it may be a little bit of surrender to say, I'm going to go and I'm going to chant Krishna's names. But here, one thing it says is you can follow the regulative principles which are set down by your spiritual master. Do these certain things consistently as best as you can to purify your heart. So the purport from Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this verse, two different processes of bhakti yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For the second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations, which one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. And as we were saying before, there are different prophets and people like Moses or Muhammad that came to a people in a very polluted consciousness, and they were given specific rules and regulations to help people in the modes of passion and ignorance, to help elevate. So they weren't teaching the highest form of bhakti yoga to people. And so this is why a lot of times you read the Quran, you read the Bible, there's little gems you can, as a devotee of Krishna, the pure devotee of Krishna, can say, okay, this person was teaching this bhakti here. But there's a lot of, as the fact that I used to follow Islam, I can tell you that there's not a whole lot of bhakti in the Quran because of the people that we were, but it's there, you can find it. Bhakti yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of bhakti yoga, these senses can become purified. And in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. In the material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money. And the master also is not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. So there is no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love, because you're dealing with the greatest lover, Krishna. This is a relationship of love. It's not a conditional. But there may be conditions initially, and Krishna recognizes those things. So he gives you particular things to help you engage still in spiritual life, and rules and regulations to help purify, to come closer to Krishna. So as a spiritual aspirant, we need to have some kind of faith and dedication to a certain extent. It's okay if we have certain desires. That doesn't disqualify us from coming closer to Krishna. But we do have to do some of the work. We have to do the work of what's given to us. So that stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. So the love for God, bhakti, is already present within all living entities. But a lot of it is dormant. Okay, love for God is manifested in different ways, but it's contaminated by the material association. Now, the material association has to be purified, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. So it is, I was walking out at Lanikai Beach today, and there was, walking along the beach, and we just had this massive storm. So we had so much rain that washed from the streets and into the ocean with all the soil and dirt and oil and garbage and whatnot. So walking by the beach, it's like you can see the what was normally a purified, very clear Lanikai Beach water. The water there is so clear usually, and so beautiful and so clean. In its pure state, it's clean, it's cleansed, but it's become contaminated by contaminants, right, of the material association in this case. And that doesn't mean that the water itself is not inherently pure, but it needs to be purified by a process. So they have to, the ocean will do what it does. It'll clean it out eventually, but there is a way that people like sometimes get the garbage out. They have to use a net, and they have to clean out the garbage of the ocean that's come from the mainland from us terrible humans who've left trash all over the place. But there is a process, right, to purify that water. You can see this in actually a lot of reels too. Sometimes you have the pure lake from 100 years ago is now, because people have lived around it, become they've dumped all the pollutants in there. And then you have these people who come up with ideas. They're like, I love this lake. This is my hometown, and I'm going to do this process of this thing, whether it's some kind of bacteria or thing that eats it, or they just go out there and they take people and they clean up the process. They clean up the lake until it's in its purified state again. So, but there is a process there. So that's the point. This love of God, okay, so we read that. To practice the radiative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna, then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow. So we don't really do that. I mean, we have a system of sleeping in. We don't take our bath till in the evening. We don't offer food to Krishna. We may get up and make ourselves food eventually, but eventually we put Krishna into thing. We think, okay, I'm gonna take that sacrifice of getting up early in the morning, take a bath to clean my body, to clean all the stuff out, wake my body up, wake my mind up, and then engage in a process of my japa yoga or offering food to Krishna, welcoming Krishna. So this is Krishna consciousness. It's an activities of things that you used to do for yourself, but now you're engaging Krishna in remembrance of Krishna, and it becomes fun. It becomes a fun thing for you to do. And there are benefits that come with that. So waking up early every day, you have a longer amount of times to do things in the day. You're grounded yourself with the spiritual names of Krishna, which in solitude, the solitude time in the morning is very beneficial. It makes it so that you're not agitated by your mind in the things that you have to deal with in the day. You make your food, you offer your food to Krishna, and then you have a nice breakfast, and then you go off and do whatever you have to do. The process of going out and collecting flowers, I love going out, and I have my Tulsi plants out here, and I go out and I have a little bit of a ritual, although we've had a storm, so I haven't really, done too much collecting of flowers during this rain. But normally I just, I talk to Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi. You look so beautiful today. Let me cut some of your manjaris, and I sing my little song. Vrindaya Tulsi Devai Priyaya Keshavasha Cha Krishna Bhakti Pradi Devi Sachavatai Namo Namaha, which is one of the Tulsi prayers, and so many things. So there's so many examples for that. So we take our prasadam and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow. And one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone to rise to the level of love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of bhakti yoga under the rules and regulations with the direction of a spiritual master will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. Nice. Text 10. Abhyashebi ashamatoshi matmakarma bharamo bhava madatam api karmani kurvan shidim abhasyashi abhashe. In the practice of api even ashamarta unable ashi you are mat karma my work paramaha supreme bhava you become matatam for my sake api even though karmani what kurvan performing siddhim perfection avapshashi achieve. So here we go again some more. If you cannot practice the regulations of bhakti yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me you will come to the perfect stage. So working for Krishna can mean many different things. Sometimes people are come to the process of chanting. They find it very difficult to try to follow the very standards by which the spiritual master has set, offering food to the deity or whatnot. So they may be also living in an area where they can do service for a devotee, whether it's, they may have talents as carpentry, so they're fixing fences or whatnot. So there's many, many things there. Still working in the service of Krishna. One who is not able to even to practice the regulative principles of bhakti yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. I don't know, I'm kind of curious. Go back to the 11th chapter and see what that verse was. My dear Arjuna, one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities and from mental speculation, who is friendly to every living entity, certainly comes to me. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's see what Bhaktivedanta Swami has to say about that. How to do this work is okay. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, someone could be not following the rules of Bhakti Yoga per se, the amount of rounds or chanting, but is sympathetic. So they may try to assist in different ways to help a person. They may give donations, money. They may offer their house for devotees to come chant. Many reasons, many things. They may give the land so people can buy. They can sell for a good deal, so they build a temple or something, or a meditation center. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. So yeah, there are many outreach programs I've seen where people just come. They're not chanting japa, they're not really chanting kirtan, except for what they're about to come, but they're so moved. They like the chanting and they want to help. They feel like they want to assist in some way. So they may clean up, they may sweep up the mess, maybe a mess that got spilled. They may help clean the bathrooms of the place. It could be many different things. They just feel compelled. And I think humans, because we're living, we have the tendency to want to serve. We find it when we are in a situation of a community situation. It doesn't have to be Krishna conscious, Bhakti Yoga. It could be anything. It could be a church. It could be a meeting of teachers. They feel like, we want to help. We want to serve in some way. So I'll bring some food. I'll help set up chairs so we make this thing happen. So people jump in because they feel good that they've contributed, right, to something larger than themselves. So, so even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help with such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. There's so many things to do in the Lord Chaitanya's mission. There are so many things going on. Even if you're living out in a state and you don't know of any devotees around you, you know there are devotees elsewhere, and we have a wonderful thing like the internet. You can reach out to people. You can say, is there any way that I can be of assistance in what you're doing? There's always people doing things, and there's always people who need help. So if you're out there and you're wondering, what can I do to help? What can I do to assist in any way? Then these are ways you can do. And you can also drop a, or directly message me if you want to know of any way you can be of assistance in anything that's going on that I might know about. So please drop a message in there or drop a comment. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, because we do things all the time, right? And I gave those examples of people wanting to help in many different situations, but a lot of times you may be helping things that really kind of just benefit yourself, even though there might be a larger than yourself, but you're still getting the benefits. Or we just do things for ourselves. We just go out and shop for ourselves. We don't really help, and the reality is, I was watching a psychologist talk about this, and they were saying that those people who are dealing with depression, when they start to help other people or focus on other people to help and assist with them, then some percentage of them, 85% of the time, that depression was actually lessened, because they were not focusing upon themselves and their problems. They were actually trying to go out and help people. If one has sufficient money, he can help build an office or a temple, or for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activities, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the result of such activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service is to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. So there it is, it's said from the pure devotee. That you could be doing, you may even be thinking that it's just not really a big deal. You might not even know that it's actually spiritually beneficial, but it is. And this is a state. So you may not be a pure devotee of Krishna. You may not be engaging in all the rules and regulations that your spiritual master has had, but you may be every week coming to a gathering, helping clean up, helping, or you may be assisting some way that is indirectly related, and it's still beneficial to you. So it's a wonderful system of how this works. So, text 11. Ata itadapi ashaktosi katum madhyogam ashrityaha sarva karma phala tyagam tata kuru yatat mavan. Ata, even though, etat, this, api, also, akshata, unable, ashi, you are, kartum, to perform, mat, unto me, yogam, devotional service, ashritaha, refuge, sarva karma, all activities, phala, result, tyagam, for renunciation, tata, therefore, kuru, do, yata atmavan, self-situated. Translation, text 11. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness, then try to act, giving up the results of your work, and try to be situated. Okay, so there's another condition. Try to act so not being attached to the results of what you do, which is a big thing, you know. We actually we do things with the intention of trying to get something out of them, you know. We may even like act a certain way because we have a feeling that this person may be acting in a certain way back to us. Purport. It may be that one is unable to even sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. Now, it could be another religion and thinking, well, I can't really help the Hare Krishna people because I'm a, you know, Jew, or I'm a Muslim, and that's, you know, a different God, and, you know, whatever that consciousness might be, you know, like I can't do it. Everybody knows I'm going to be over in the Hindu section. They're going to be pissed off at me, whatever. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objection for family members or so many other difficulties. Yes. I think a lot of us have experienced that. You know, like I came from a Catholic family, and I think my mom was hoping that I would just become a priest when I was a Catholic, and then when I started, I was a Muslim, and she didn't like that at all. Then I became, then I started practicing meditation, and she didn't really complain about it, but I think she just always thought it would be a passing phase, but it wasn't a passing phase. So, but some people are actually downright offensive. They make offenses about their family members chanting Krishna's names. So sometimes people have to be kind of like detached and like, this is what I do over here, and I'm not even going to tell my family members about it because they won't accept it, whatever. So for one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated results of his activities to some good cause. So there it is, you know, that's the next one, you know, like work for a good cause, help the homeless, help, you know, and not be attached to like, how am I going to get out of that, you know, help give people food or whatever. So that activity of goodwill to people is, you know, it's considered a spiritual elevation. So because you're at least not thinking about yourself, you know, like, oh, fuck everybody. I'm just here to get what I can get out of this life and then just die or whatever, you know. No, it's like, okay, I want to help out. I want to be a philanthropist. I want to help out people in some way. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions of the pumundi, or special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. This idea, and I didn't state this, I remember, it's across religions, you know, giving of charity to people. In Islam, it's considered one of the pillars. You need to give a certain proportion amount of money to helping other people, you know. So this here, it's also stated in the Vedas as pumundi, special work which one with the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus, one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness gives charity to some hospital or some other social institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. Yeah, and in Islam, it's also a similar thing, you know, in Christianity as well, that everything that you have comes from God. So, therefore, you should care about other people like you care about yourself. It's like the saying, love your neighbor as yourself, right? You should care. You should be able to help people. Of course, the greatest way of giving charity is to teach people about Krishna, you know, but maybe people don't want to hear about Krishna, so you have to kind of find ways to, you know, you offer food and offer them food, or, you know, just help them out in a way. Show that you care about people. You know, that's a good sign. It's better than being completely self-conscious, self-centered, and like, I don't care about other people. I've got to protect my own, you know. And unfortunately, those are the people who are like that. That is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually. You don't become attached. Okay, this is coming from God. Money comes, money goes. I'm not attached to the money, you know, and you feel like I'm using it in a good cause. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other's experience. Okay. In that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the result of his action. So it's interesting that, you know, coming into contact with Krishna consciousness can purify you to understand Krishna consciousness, but you can also do this other means that will help purify your heart so that you do understand Krishna consciousness. So it's a very interesting thing. So sometimes you might not understand Krishna consciousness, and if you come into contact and you make offenses, which will actually help, you know. But if you're doing these other things, purifying your heart by doing service, and then you come into Krishna consciousness, you'll be purified enough to understand it. So I think that's really what it's saying here. But Krishna consciousness is not dependent upon, you know, any other experience. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, etc., may be accepted so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, we find it is stated, Yata praviter bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method. So there's sacrifices. All sacrifices come, that's why Krishna's name is Yajna, sacrifice. He is the source of all sacrifices. So if you're making a sacrifice, even if it's in some kind of mode of ignorance or passion, a little sacrifice here, a little sacrifice there, that's good for your cause because it teaches you not to be so, you know, it teaches you that actually it's Krishna, really. It's Krishna giving you a little glimpse of like, to put your false ego away, that you are not Krishna. You're not the beneficiary of this, everything that comes to you, you know. You're not a beneficiary of anything. Actually, nobody actually owns anything. Nobody is the controller of anything. Krishna is the owner and controller of all things animate and inanimate, as stated in the Sri Ishopanishad. So it was like a lot of times, you know, there's like people fighting for lands, like this is my homeland. I was a Native American and they came 10,000 years ago or something like that, and suddenly the land became theirs. So they say, well, this was our land. No, it wasn't their land. It was nobody's land. It's like people moving in and out of and obtaining ownership, feigned ownership, you know, of something. But we have to understand that nothing is really ours. So when you are engaging in these little sacrifices, like you see a homeless person and you give them your food or something like that, or you know, you help someone, an old lady has to have a hard time with her groceries, you go, that is what these sacrifices are talking about. It teaches you that, and I think it really is because people have a vision of like feeling like they don't like to see people having a hard time. Because if you were having a hard time and somebody came up to you and said, can I help you with something, you would probably most likely be grateful to take that help. So, text 12, I'm going to do one more. Let's see. Text 12. Shreya hiya gananam abhiyashaj gananan dayanam vishashyate Dayanat karma phala tyagas, tyagat shatir anantaram, Shreya, better. He, certainly. Gananam, knowledge. Abhishyashat, by practice. Ganat, gananat, better than knowledge. Dhyanam, meditation. Vishate, especially. Considered dhyanat, from meditation. Dhyana, meditation, right? So in the Ashtanga process. Karma phala tyaga, renunciation of the results of fruitive action. So that's a renunciation. That's an interesting point, because the tyaga is a renunciation. So, and we talked about the difference between real renunciation and feigned renunciation. So sometimes people feel like if I give up everything, then that's real renunciation. But giving up the results of fruitive action and actually giving up ownership of that, the idea of ownership, like I own that. Sometimes that may be like I'm giving that away because I know I don't own it. Sometimes it may be using it in a different way. It's a different kind of renouncing. Tyaga, by such renunciation. Shanti, peace. Anantaram, thereafter. Text 12, translation. If you cannot take to this practice, another one, then engage yourself in cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruit of action. And for such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. As mentioned in the previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulative principles and the way of full attachment and love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those who are actually not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge, because by knowledge one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation. By meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a gradual process. There are processes which make one understand that one himself is the Supreme, and that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. So they're actually saying in personalism, monism is better, at least that's a different stage, but that can be tricky in itself. That could actually lead you also to becoming a materialist. One is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties as enjoined in the Vedic literature for the Brahmanas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, which we shall find in a later chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result or fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma for some good cause. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one can come to the stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation, then to the stage of understanding the Supersoul, and then to the stage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may either take the step-by-step process or the direct path. The direct process is not possible for everyone. So it is the easiest, it's the shortest, but not everyone is able or in the consciousness to be able to take that. And so Krishna has a wide spectrum of ways to get to that. Therefore, the indirect process is also good. It is, however, to be understood that the indirect process is not recommended for Arjuna because he is already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. It is for others who are not at this state. For them, the gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the Supersoul and Brahman should be followed. But as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take to the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Krishna is actually explaining to Arjuna the wide spectrum of ways and means and actually addressing all of his points that he brought up in the first chapter and going way beyond that. But he comes to the conclusion that despite the fact that there are this wide spectrum of ways, the best way, you should just surrender. And any kind of fear that you have that I'm not going to, as my spiritual master was saying in a lecture I heard recently, that there's so much fear involved in when you do not surrender to Krishna in certain aspects of your life. And we've shown this wide variety of spectrums of surrender, because there's some fear that, if I give that up, then I'm not going to be happy, or I won't be able to have this, or if I give my life to Krishna, I'll never find someone I can love and have a family with, or the fears are so many. Or if I give up my money, I can't live in LA or whatever, so if I go, my spiritual master wants me to go here, it's just going to be problematic. So there's a certain amount of fear, but Krishna's saying, just surrender to me, abandon all the varieties of these different religions and just surrender to me. I shall give you all protection. Krishna will give you all protection. All protection. Krishna. And do you think that Krishna, as my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, would say, he can't handle your little problems with this, that, and this whatever that you're worried about, that you're fearful about? He says, do not fear, I shall give you all protection. So it is a surrender, it is trust, it is faith, it is shraddha. You have to have faith that your spiritual master loves you unconditionally. Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda love you unconditionally. They know they are the source of all this and things. So when they say, just surrender unto me, do not fear, that's what they mean, and that's what will happen. But for those people who have some fear, like Bhaktivedanta Swami says, not everyone will be able to do the direct process. So therefore there is a wide variety of different ways to approach that. Trying to think if I should go on to the 13 and 14. Okay, we'll read this next one, 13 and 14. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirankara samaduka sukas kasami santusta sattatam yogi yatama drita nishchaya mayarapita manobuddhir yomad bhaktaha same priya. Adveshta, not envious. Sarva bhutanam, for all living entities. Matraha, friendly. Karuna, kindly. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Nirmaha, with no sense of proprietorship. Nirahankara, without false ego. Ahankara is false ego. Nira is without, and ahankara is without your false egos, right? Asama, equally. Dukkha, distress. Sukha, happiness. Distress and happiness. Kashami, forgiving. Santushta, satisfied. It's a tushta, right? Satisfied. Satatam, satisfied. Yogi, engaged in devotion. Yata atma, endeavoring. Dridashishaya, with determination. It's a big word. Maya, upon me. Arpita, engage. Manaha, mind. Buddhi, intelligent. Ya, one who mat bhakta, my devotee. Saye, shame priya, he is dear to me. Translation, one who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress, who is always satisfied, engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me. He is very dear to me. So here you see many of the things that we've seen before that Krishna is stating about a pure devotee of Krishna. All these qualities, and some of the qualities that that you can take out, that you should have, the qualities that you should have, even in those levels of gray. If you can't do this, you do this, do that, and still being kind to people. So here he is. He's not envious of Krishna. He has no envy towards being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wants to be the servant of Krishna. He's kind to everyone because he knows that all children they're all children of Krishna. He doesn't own anything. He's not a controller of any ways. He accepts anything that comes to Krishna as Krishna's mercy. Free from false ego. I am spiritual. I am spirit, part and parcel of Krishna, and I am subservient to Krishna and engaging in loving service to Krishna. So, free from false ahankara, right? Free near ahankara. Equal both in happiness and distress. Sama, right? Happiness and distress. The equilibrium of the teeter-totter, right? Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, but you just have an equilibrium. So whether you're happy or whether you're sad, it's Krishna. You're satisfied, tushta, engaged in devotional service with determination, and your mind and intelligence are in agreement with me. Your will is one with me. This is a dear devotee of Krishna, Bhakta. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed by any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone. As my god sister said recently, that one should be grateful and accept whatever comes from Krishna, whatever situation comes as the mercy of Krishna. Sometimes you have to contemplate that because if things are really bad, you're just like, okay, this is Krishna's mercy. How is that? Nor does the devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks that one is acting as his enemy due to his own past misdeeds. Thus it is better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated, Tate nukam pam su shamik shamyamano. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. If you really contemplate the fact that this is not the only life you've had. You've been in many, many, many millions and millions of lives before, and you've done pretty much everything horrible that you could fathom or you see that goes on in the material world. It is horrible, but you've done that, maybe probably far worse. And so if you receive suffering, that is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, that you're not getting all the punishment that is due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. A devotee is also always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that the devotee does not attach much importance to peace and trouble pertaining to the body because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is free from the conception of false ego and is equiposed both in happiness and distress. He is tolerant, and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. So it's not like trying to be in anxiety over trying to manipulate things to try to get things the way he wants. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. One will with his spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false argument because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All his qualifications enable him to depend entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. Wonderful. So, I don't think much more can be said with that. That's pretty, and I thought that word that was used in that was used here, because I was thinking about tusta and santusta, satisfied, right? Tusta, being satisfied. Krishna, Tusta Krishna Das was satisfied in doing whatever his spiritual master wanted, and that's why he was a pure devotee. I didn't have the great fortune to know him personally, but what I've heard of him and what I've heard from him in recordings, it is very clear that he was one-pointedly devoted to Srila Prabhupada in love and devotion and to Lord Chaitanya's mission. So I offer my respectful obeisances to Tusta Krishna Das. And that's wonderful that you can, any pure devotee of Krishna, this verse, the purport basically explains it very well. So, kind of losing my voice a little bit. So I'm going to call it there, and we will pick up next time with more of the verses. Thank you very much. Namaste.